Previously on the Chris Hansen Chronicles, I detailed the downfall of disgraced NBC journalist Chris Hansen, how he was exiled from the entertainment industry due to a scandal, and how he tried to make his way back in with a Kickstarter to reignite his former glory. But his house of cards came crashing down when he was exposed for scamming his backers out of rewards that he had promised them. These broken promises signaled serious money problems, and Chris was arrested in 2019 for issuing a bad check over some shirts and mugs, and the public attention revealed that he was over $1.5 million in debt. His return to YouTube was a desperate, blatant cash grab filled with missteps and inexcusable mistakes. But yet his loyal fanbase still trusted him to bring one of YouTube's most egregious deviants to justice. After all that, why does Chris Hansen continue to maintain an air of credibility? In the next little while, I'll reveal more shocking truths about Chris. From how he's willing to sacrifice his professional dignity for almost any amount of money, to how his scheming and conniving has eroded his own community's respect for him. So, why don't you guys take a seat, and we'll investigate the fascinating case of the internet fraud, Chris Hansen.
The number of internet-powered home-based businesses has nearly doubled in the last 20 years. Opportunity abounds, but the new economy has also spawned a new breed of criminal looking to make a quick buck at your expense.
I just wanted to tell you all that I've seen this amazing new smartphone called the Escobar Fold 2. I was thinking about an old quote today that seems particularly relevant. When the debate is lost, the loser resorts to slander. Think about that for a minute.
If there's a common trend with washed-up YouTubers, it's that they have one subject that they revisit to maintain relevancy. Chris Hansen is a perfect example of this, having cashed in almost exclusively on the Onision drama. And that is where the second part of our story commences. His coverage was by far one of the most involved that had ever been seen before on YouTube, encompassing direct interviews with victims, law enforcement, and other individuals in the psychology field to give an insight into the
YouTube psychobrat
known as Onision. At this point, there was no turning back. Onision was the only thing that could keep his channel alive, so Chris did the biggest stunt he could think of and flew to Washington State with controversial lawyer Mike Morse and a camera crew and knocked on Onision's door.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, there's a person who's been stalking me online and they just showed up to my house.
Okay, and they're outside now?
Yes, they're knocking on my door.
Okay.
They have a bunch of camera people, like they're YouTube stalkers.
And the one that's knocking on your door, is he the main one that you said has been stalking you?
Yes, he's a stalker. He's yelling things at me through the door right now.
Okay, and what do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
This set the internet into a frenzy, and heaps of YouTube commentary channels hopped on the story, only further increasing the publicity around Onision, and more importantly, Chris Hansen. I myself had some questions regarding why Chris would do this, as it was very unlikely that Onision would agree to an interview under those circumstances, as well as the last time Chris showed up to someone's house with a camera crew, it ended in a man's death. It seemed to me like a grasp to maintain relevancy, but I couldn't really say anything because of his visceral fan base that attacked anyone for being remotely critical of Hansen and his actions. But the number of people in support of Hansen would drop significantly over the subsequent months. And it all started when journalist Stephen Asarch dropped a bomb on Chris's investigation near the end of January 2020. Sarah was one of the victims of Onision interviewed by Chris Hansen on his show. She gave a very compelling testimony, and her strength in coming out about her experiences paved the way for others to give their stories as well. In these conversations, it came out that she had possession of a laptop and cell phones that apparently had some explicit images of Onision's once wife, now husband, Kai, sent to Sarah when she was still underage. Chris Hansen told her he had FBI contacts and that she could send the devices to him and he would make sure it got safely to the FBI. I mean, why wouldn't multi-time Emmy Award winner Chris Hansen not have FBI contacts? So on Chris's direction, she sent the laptop and mobile phones to Chris's incompetent web producer, Vincent Nkotra? Okay, interesting move to leave them in the hands of someone like Vince, I guess, but this is Chris Hansen. I'm sure he knows what he's doing, right? Right? On the 22nd of January 2020, journalist Stephen Asarch dropped a bomb on Chris's investigation in relation to Vince's mishandling of evidence. According to Asarch, Sarah thought that her laptop and phone was with the FBI for months, but in reality, it was sitting in the office of the useless Vincent Nkotra. The package was shipped on November the 7th to Vincent's address under Chris's name, and Vince claims that Chris Hansen told him not to touch it and wait for further instructions. The package sat with Vincent, unopened, for months. Apparently, Sarah didn't know what was going on at all, and after conversations with Chris and Vincent, her devices were shipped back to her. Chris said that he called the FBI immediately, but didn't want to ship it around without knowing the proper chain of custody. Time went by, and he didn't hear anything back. You can play the blame game here for hours, but at the end of the day, Chris was the one who bungled this laptop. He told Sarah to ship it to Vincent and didn't give Vincent any extra information on what to do with it. On top of this, Vince said the original plan was to copy the contents of the hard drive and then ship it to the FBI? Like what? You can't do that, that's tampering with evidence. Any competent criminal defense lawyer would get this thrown out immediately. That's the level of amateurish conduct we're seeing here. And, make no mistake, it was all because of Chris Hansen. This event sparked a revolution of sorts in the community. The vast majority of comments under Stephen Asarch's post were in agreement that Hansen's operation was an absolute trash fire. And this is where Chris's house of cards started to fall. Over time, Chris started to run out of people to interview on his show. All the reasonable choices had been exhausted, so he decided to go out and scrape the bottom of the barrel. And out came this woman, Holly Hayes. Holly Hayes runs a Tumblr blog about Onision. Wait, what? Yes, you heard me right. Big famous TV journalist Chris Hansen is now interviewing Tumblr blogs.
We came across a woman named Holly Hayes who has a site called OnisionHurtsPeople.tumblr.com, and over the last couple of years has amassed a database virtually of people who've been impacted by Onision.
Oh, this is going to be great, right? I can feel the knowledge entering me already.
How did you first become aware of Onision yourself?
So I log on YouTube one day in like 2011 or something, and I see a picture, it's a thumbnail of Shiloh and some guy standing beside her. And then I looked at the guy next to her, and I kid you not, every hair on my body stood up on end. I just immediately got vibes of like there's something so wrong with this person. And ever since then, I've been following his career. It's like, you know, when someone has a fever and you put your hand up to their forehead and you could feel the heat coming off them. It was like that, but darkness.
Now, if you thought that an alarming and hair-raising darkness emitting from thumbnails was crazy enough, Holly goes on to tell Chris that Onision has confirmed kills.
On the more severe side, I have literally had people starve themselves to death because of Onision and his rhetoric on YouTube.
Now, when you say starve yourself to death, people didn't actually die.
No, they died.
You have cases where somebody died in relation to starvation.
Yep.
Now, when met with this baseless accusation live on air to thousands of people, what would a proper reporter do? Maybe ask for proof? Evidence, maybe? Say this hadn't been confirmed?
Tell me about that case.
So the sister of the
He
girl...
just lets her keep talking, live to thousands of people. Now, the reason this girl looks all out of it is because she was actually high on Xanax while doing the interview. Great job, Chris. Really credible people that you're bringing on. Literally interviewing Tumblr blogs to make more money. It couldn't possibly get any worse, could it?
Coronavirus.
In March, the coronavirus pandemic took the world by storm, and rightfully so. At the time of recording, there are over 13 million confirmed cases and over 600,000 deaths worldwide due to COVID-19. So, with such a shift in focus and a hot topic like this, what do you think Chris Hansen will do?
Good evening and welcome to Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. You are now on the front lines in a battle against a predator called COVID-19.
Yes, folks, Chris Hansen, former host of To Catch a Predator, is now producing streams on the coronavirus pandemic. For his first very insightful stream, he interviewed a company that claimed to have one of the greatest inventions in scientific and technological history. A pandemic-ending vapor for commercial applications that they claimed would kill the coronavirus for up to 70 to 90 days. A representative for NanoVapor Biotech, the company in question, went on Chris Hansen's show as a medical expert, but started rattling off about his product about halfway through the stream.
As you know, many household cleaners are quite good at killing various microbes. The issue is that once you've cleaned, if someone touches that surface 5 seconds later or a minute or an hour later, you've infected that same surface. Our company, NanoVapor Biotech, has come up with a solution. We have a non-toxic, water-based, no-residue product that can be applied to any surface. And not only does it immediately kill the virus, but incredibly, our research is showing that it will kill the virus for up to 70 to 90 days.
70 to 90 days.
If it seems like these people were born yesterday, that's because they probably were. The website domain for this revolutionary product was registered the day before the stream on Chris Hansen's channel. The website was, as you can see, very well crafted. I mean, look at the resolution of these pictures here. The Twitter account for this miraculous yet uncertified coronavirus killer had 5 followers according to an archive a few days after the stream, and to this day only has 2 tweets up on the account. A tweet telling people that the product had been showcased on Chris Hansen's show, and a retweet from Chris Hansen telling people about the product. The Facebook page was equally barren, with 2 likes, a banner that looked like it was made in Microsoft PowerPoint in 10 seconds using the default Calibri font, and the only post being another promo for the Hansen stream.
This is a molecule that forms these bonds that, when sprayed on a surface using proprietary nanotechnology, will create, if I can put it in lay terms, almost like spikes that point up. Those spikes can stay into place for months and years. Again, this is perfectly safe. You can even put this on your hands, and your hands would kill the virus for up to 24 hours. So it's a very safe product.
Now, if we go back to the website for a minute, it does actually have a case study linked that is supposed to measure the effectiveness of their product in a real-life setting. The study in question is 2 pages long with large type font and was done in private medical clinic. Yes, the clinic who provided the premises for the study didn't even want their name attached to the product. NanoVapor Biotech, the coronavirus killer, can prove itself in just 2 pages of research? Absolutely amazing! This is the panacea that will save all of humanity, right? Well, since the stream, NanoVapor Biotech has removed all mentions of it being a coronavirus killer from their branding. Probably because the only place it was ever tested was for a short amount of time in a regional New Jersey hospital where the chief of surgery is literally the dude who went on Chris Hansen's show. From what I can see, there is no proof the product actually worked at all. Chris Hansen not only allowed these people to come on his show to promote this product with no valid research to back up their fantastic claims, but was also most likely paid for this integration. And if he wasn't, he should have been, because he does a nice shameless ad read for it in the middle of the stream.
So this is technology that, for instance, was used to clean a fuel tank of some sort using this, and correct me if I'm wrong, dispersion type system, but it also has an application to disperse and effectively use antibacterials, antiviral chemicals to kill this virus for 70 to 90 days.
So this is nanotechnology.
Just a few weeks ago, the stream was removed from Chris Hansen's channel by YouTube for violating their community guidelines, no doubt for spreading misinformation about the coronavirus. So if you needed any more proof that this was a scam, there it is. Despite all of this, Chris even tweeted it out. Why would he promote a product that there is literally no information on? Well, he seems to have done it quite a lot. Do you guys know Pablo Escobar?
Hey guys, Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators, and to catch a predator, I just wanted to tell you all that I've seen this amazing new smartphone called the Escobar Fold 2. It appears to be the best phone out right now. I've been looking at the transcripts. So have a seat, check it out, and remember, I'll be watching.
You know, Colombian drug lord and narco-terrorist who was the founder and sole leader of the Medellin cartel, dubbed the king of cocaine, the wealthiest criminal in history, monopolizing the cocaine trade into the US in the 80s and 90s, and was also responsible for the death of over 3,000 people? Yeah, him. Well, the brother of the late Pablo Escobar, Roberto Escobar, the former chief of assassinations, decided to take the family name and capitalize on a new market: smartphones.
Escobar Inc. says it's releasing an advanced smartphone with a foldable screen.
I'm not new to electronics. I'm a person that has liked electronics for a long time, and we wanted to come out with a telephone that was different than all others in the world.
Swedish entrepreneur Olaf Gustafsson is CEO of Escobar Inc.
The best technology in the world is to have a foldable phone right now. We are changing things. We are the new Steve Jobs, and we are trying to get some fresh air into this business.
We saw headlines of another new Escobar Fold phone. It was the Escobar Fold 2. And once again, there were articles, there were headlines, there were even some videos of this new thing, a $400 Escobar folding phone that looks like this. It's looking kind of familiar again. Oh, that's just a Samsung Galaxy Fold. You take a bit of that gold off of the hinge on the back, and right underneath is that Samsung logo, right where it's supposed to be.
Okay, you may be thinking, why on earth are we talking about Pablo Escobar? And how on earth does this link back to Chris Hansen? Well, Chris did a little promo for this phone that Escobar used on their website and YouTube channel to advertise their product.
Hey guys, Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators, and to catch a predator, I just wanted to tell you all that I've seen this amazing new smartphone called the Escobar Fold 2. It appears to be the best phone out right now. I've been looking at the transcripts. So have a seat, check it out, and remember, I'll be watching. Take care.
It boggles my mind that Chris Hansen would promote anything with the name Escobar attached to it, but this whole story becomes even more inexcusable when you find out that the Escobar Fold phones were really just a scam to steal money from innocent people.
But the Galaxy Fold costs $1,800, and the Escobar Fold 2 costs $400. So how are they pulling this off? My theory is that they are going through orders, finding the names of YouTubers or just people in tech media or people who they think will talk about the phone if they get it, and shipping those, and then just not shipping the rest.
Since then, the clip has been copyright struck and removed from Escobar's channel. Hansen definitely didn't have the rights to that either. He doesn't have the copyright to his face, but hey, we'll just gloss over that. As you may have realized by now, this Chris Hansen clip came from Cameo. Cameo is a site where you can pay celebrities various amounts of money to record a video message for you. Normally, it would be a personalized birthday message or something of that sort, but unlike most people, Chris Hansen does no research into the things he's paid to say on Cameo, and as a result, he will promote just about anything if you pay him $50.
Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators, to catch a predator and have a seat with Chris Hansen. Now I'm going to need everyone to have a seat because Honey Milk has finally created an OnlyFans, daily uploads, and direct communication. Now I'm going to need you, Tim, to have a seat right over there. That's right. Right in the front seat of that plane in which you're going to be training. Very cool, son. Congratulations. I hear you've gotten into the Epstein pilot program before even finishing high school.
This clip is probably the best $50 I've ever spent. The idea that Chris Hansen, completely lacking self-awareness, congratulates a kid on getting into the Epstein pilot program before finishing high school and doesn't pick up on any of the jokes there is mind-blowing to me.
He will even go as far as to shout out one of his biggest detractors.
Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators, to catch a predator and have a seat with Chris Hansen. I'd like to give a big shout out to Nicholas Diorio. He's a great YouTuber. He's never doxed or harassed anyone as far as I can tell.
Nick paid for this clip just to rub it in Shiloh's face. And remember, Shiloh is one of the alleged victims that Chris Hansen is representing, who also initiated a targeted harassment campaign against Nick for no reason at all. I covered that whole situation in my Onision video. But just think a bit more about this. If Chris is willing to say all of this for $50, just what will he say for a more significant amount?
These cyber grifters and others like them lurk in every dark corner of the web. The good news is, with a little healthy skepticism, they're easy to avoid if you learn how to spot the warning signs of a scammer.
You have to do your research, no matter what. I personally believe it starts with knowing who you're working for.
This is a clip from a series that Chris Hansen was a part of called Scam Report. If you've never heard of it, I don't blame you. It was only published at the beginning of this year, and you can only really get to it from a direct link to a website that other people have to send to you as part of a massive pyramid scheme run by fake guru John Crestani.
You can do this even if you have no experience. You can do this even if you have no tech skills, even if you don't even have a computer, or if you're not even 18 years old.
Now, what is John Crestani telling these kids to do? Well, to sell his product, to sell his fake guru system.
Search for my last name, because the product we're going to be selling is actually my product.
So what he does is he says, hey, he posts a bunch of videos about how to make $100 a day on Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever it is. And then he tells you, sell my product.
Now, I get these messages all day long that ask me to sign up for different business opportunity programs via text message. And this is the same sort of message that you want to use for your message that you're going to send out via Twitter.
According to this video, this Scam Report episode was sponsored by Pendragon Labs. Anyone guess who owns Pendragon Labs? Yep, John Crestani.
I personally believe it starts with knowing who you're working for. If you just trace it back, is there a person that I can identify that is behind this company? That is the easiest thing you can do at first. So do your research. You should spend a couple minutes looking up the company, looking up the founders, looking up who you're going to be working for. Why wouldn't you do a little bit of research?
I guess Chris Hansen didn't know who he was working for, since John Crestani is a well-known scam artist with countless videos made exposing his scummy actions. Ironically, Hansen was brought on to promote a book which is said to help you protect yourself from scams, but the book is actually a scam itself. John Crestani's statements contrasted with the extremely shady website that this video links to doesn't really make a lot of sense either.
There are more scams out there on the internet than there are legitimate opportunities by far. Just because it's marketed as free and easy and it can make a ton of money, don't just fall for any shiny object that's thrown your way.
Crestani's revolutionary book is advertised as costing only $1. But when you go to their payment section, it adds a magic $40 monthly fee on top for a subscription to their service.
It's hard to overemphasize the importance of research when embarking on a work-at-home business. And this book is a great place to start. It's filled with the wisdom John Crestani gleaned from years of trial and error and is available to you now.
So essentially, Chris Hansen was given a sum of money to promote a make money from home scam that used his name, reputation, and influence to draw in unsuspecting victims to John Crestani's den of deception.
I'd like to introduce you to my friend Benjamin, and his friend Benjamin, and his friend Benjamin, and Benjamin, and Benjamin, and Benjamin, and Benjamin. This is what's called 10 racks, as they say in the hood.
There are more scams out there on the internet than there are legitimate opportunities by far.
Despite this being a massive scam, John Crestani does say some things that I think Chris Hansen should take to heart.
I personally believe it starts with knowing who you're working for.
I just wanted to tell you all that I've seen this amazing new smartphone called the Escobar Fold 2. It appears to be the best phone out right now.
You should spend a couple minutes looking up the company, looking up the founders, looking up who you're going to be working for.
I've been looking at the transcripts.
Why wouldn't you do a little bit of research?
So have a seat, check it out, and remember, I'll be watching.
But surely this is the only scam that Chris Hansen has promoted, right? This is obviously a one-off thing. He just made a mistake. Okay, Chris, just don't do it again. But while I was scrolling through Hansen's Twitter in research for this video, I came across a tweet from February showing Hansen in a studio. We know that Chris has promised new investigations for ages, so was this finally proof he was working on something fresh? Hold on, what's that there on the floor? Let's enhance. Wait, this isn't a new investigation. This is another scam! Hansen's branding is all over this website called Debt Relief Secrets, where you can pay $40 to have a book sent to you that is supposed to give you the key to dramatically reduce your debt. The website screams scam, And it gets even worse when you get to the testimonials section, because the scripts they gave to the different actresses to promote this book are pretty much identical.
This taught me so much about creditors.
This taught me so much about creditors.
I finally feel in control of my finances.
And for the first time, I finally feel like I'm in control over my own money.
And I will never be taken advantage of again.
I will never be taken advantage of again.
Everyone should read this.
Really, you guys, you want to read this.
Oh my gosh, that's bad. But I do remember something from John Crestani though.
I personally believe it starts with knowing who you're working for.
Luckily for all of you at home, I did find out who Chris Hansen was working for. The website is apparently copyrighted by Finance Dream Team LLC. And if we look at the business filing for this company, its founder is listed as Anthony Sarandrea, who's another guru focusing on internet marketing. Ironically, he only has 66 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and although his company, SiteFlood, is apparently a large digital advertising agency and has led him to consulting several Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies on branding, sales, and direct marketing strategies, he only has one testimonial listed, and the articles he uses to establish his credibility are either from years ago or from janky sites I've never heard of. His Instagram has an engagement rate of 0.35%, which is one of the lowest I've ever seen, and he is, all around, an extremely questionable individual. The fact that Hansen would sacrifice his name and professional reputation for a product like this is mind-boggling to me. Keep in mind, this was in February, in the middle of his peak on YouTube. But mistakes happen, and when you're in the fast-paced world of online media production, it's easy to commit even a second serious error in judgment. But surely Chris hasn't done anything else to compromise his integrity for a few dollars, right? There's no way he would, let's say, take $10,000 from a dark money political group to star in an ad to smear a candidate running for Congress as an anti-Semite based off no conclusive evidence whatsoever. Oh, he actually did that?
Her screen name is @Valerie Plame. Valerie Plame, I'm gonna need you to have a seat right over there. She promoted material from our paid site at least 9 times. And you won't believe what she's doing now.
I'm running for Congress.
It says people on TV should be labeled like a bottle of rat poison?
Valerie Plame is a pretty troubled character, loaded with baggage and controversy due to her being the center of the CIA leak scandal known as the Plame affair back in 2003. But she's not an ultra-nationalist right-winger. She's a Democrat running for Congress in New Mexico. The situation in this ad happened 2 years ago. She deleted the tweet 2 hours later, she apologized, and it later came out that she actually has Jewish heritage and that she's a member of the local synagogue.
My great-grandfather was a rabbi in the Ukraine, but when I researched, I've always been drawn to that aspect of my Jewish heritage, and so it led me, to Temple Beth Shalom in Santa Fe.
What do you do with the temple? I mean, this is also new to me. I didn't know you were involved in the community.
I am a big fan of the rabbi.
But you're a member of the temple. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, how do I know Hansen was paid $10,000? Oh, it's because there's an FEC filing for it. This man will do literally anything for money, even taking 10 grand from a group that doesn't disclose their donors to smear a candidate based on a tweet that was up for 2 hours? This ad isn't just inaccurate, but it's downright defamatory. The fact that Hansen would agree to this is legitimately concerning. Is he really that desperate? Besides Chris Hansen promoting these extremely sketchy products and groups, he also peddles a culture of false hope when it comes to the people he investigates on his YouTube channel, namely to do with Onision. After all this time, Chris Hansen was still plodding along with his aimless Onision investigation, but the heat was eventually put on Chris. After months of rejecting Hansen, with Onision asking for an absurd amount of money to do an interview, the YouTube psychobrat himself agreed to do an interview with Chris Hansen at no cost. Onision invited him on his channel for a conversation, and Chris declined, thinking that Onision was inviting him to do a show on OnlyFans.
This probably won't come as a shock to most of you, but I will not be going on Greg James Onision's, the YouTube psychobrat from Washington State's members-only paid porn channel.
So Onision agreed to go on Chris Hansen's show on one condition: disable all monetization. Chris rejected that request, saying that there would be no conditions. He got severe flack for this, and 30 minutes later he caved and said he would demonetize the interview. You would think that right now everything would be set up, but no. Chris's lawyer alerted Onision that the interview would now be pre-recorded, which makes no sense at all. Onision said yes to this condition as long as he could live stream the conversation on his channel to ensure that nothing would be taken out of context. In fact, one of the conditions for Onision being interviewed by Keemstar is that nothing could be cut out, so it's not unreasonable for Chris to be held to the same standard. But Chris rejected it again, even after Onision agreed to do it pre-recorded.
It's become clear to me now that there's no way to do an interview with him, at least at this point, without him trying to exploit a live version of that interview. So in the meantime, it appears there will be no interview unless he can actually sit down and do a real interview where he actually answers to the allegations. In the meantime, I'll remind you of something I said a while back. I was a reporter before he was born. I'll be a reporter after he goes to prison. Hopefully, where he won't have a lot of access to making those videos on the internet.
But what makes this go from insane to absurd is that Chris was willing to ambush Onision in his own home for the upper hand, and he wouldn't consent to a live debate on an even playing field. He still argued the only way to have a fair conversation is to stack the narrative in his own favor. Chris is scared to interview Onision. Don't forget this. And as it turns out, so is the rest of the community who makes videos on him. He also basically lied before this Twitter video went up. Onision dropped the emails where he literally said fuck it and agreed to do it pre-recorded with no catch hours before this Twitter video went up, making that entire last 2 minutes completely irrelevant because Onision was actually willing to sit down with Chris Hansen. I've heard the going rumor that Chris's lawyer middleman just didn't check his email, but forgive me if I'm inclined not to believe him. So just to summarize, Chris said he wouldn't go on Onision's channel and then Onision compromised. Chris said he wouldn't do a live stream and Onision compromised. To say Onision has played games here is wrong, and he compromised far more than Chris did in this situation. It's just a fact.
And now a break from our regularly scheduled programming. We have my good friend CordWit to talk about Chris Hansen's Emmy.
I'm sure that at this point in the video you're probably getting very angry with this Chris Hansen bloke and you want to tell him how you feel about his actions. Well, funny enough, he can't take criticism. Hello there, I'm your friendly John Swan ripoff. If you've seen me around on Twitter, you might have noticed that in my bio I have the words blocked by Chris Hansen in there. I can proudly say that I was one of the first to be blocked. Yes, that's what makes me sleep at night, well done. If you're wondering, I was indeed blocked by him for making a harmless joke as well. Come on man, have a heart, it was funny. Nowadays you say anything remotely negative towards him, it's an immediate block. He's blocked an innumerable amount of people at this point. I'm not against blocking people obviously, but you're meant to be an investigative journalist, mate. I think this was mostly apparent when he was completely messing up this whole thing about interviewing Onision, which never happened by the way. When somebody called him out for not even accepting an interview offer from the person he had been investigating, you know what he did? He posted a picture of his Emmy. He flat out got angry enough to respond to somebody with an image with no caption on the internet. I think this was the point where the majority of people turned around and started laughing at Chris. Of course, this image alone became a pretty decent meme in the anti-Chris group, and you can see why. It was just so passive-aggressive. This was not the only incident of Chris not only blocking but also deflecting criticism. His video response to part 1 consisted of a bunch of bad takes and even saying that John is just somebody that does a bunch of Google searches, whereas Chris doesn't even do that. That video was mostly about his Cameo as well. Talk about focusing on the wrong thing, mate. Personally, I don't like just being mean to somebody because of their actions, but Chris is really not acting like a journalist. Journalists don't deflect criticism, they use it to their advantage.
Thank you, CordWit. I highly recommend you all subscribe to him. He makes some great stuff, and his link is in the description. Please do show him some love. After Chris Hansen rejected the interview, many people actually called it a win for Onision, which is something I thought I would never say. Chris really couldn't continue to talk about Onision forever, so he needed a new target. And he got just that with Davi Vanity. I don't know much about this situation, so I can't really speak on it, but apparently there are many concrete examples of Davi Vanity being predatory towards minors, and police reports have been filed, so at least something is going right there. Despite this new target, he kept on updating the audience on Onision at the end of every single stream.
You can guarantee that we will continue these two investigations into Onision, the YouTube psycho brat from Washington State, and Davi Vanity. Much more to come. A lot of work on the part of law enforcement, but it's happening. There was a lot of talk today and yesterday about the YouTube psycho brat in Washington. That investigation is far from over. We're staying on top of the Onision investigation. A lot of these things take time, and I know people want revelation every week, especially when it comes to Onision. As you all know, this has been a place where we also investigate Onision, and it is very much moving forward. So we are expecting to see some results in the very near future. Before we wrap up, I want to let you know that we've been doing a little bit of reporting on the Onision James Greg Jackson YouTube psycho brat from Washington State story. We will, as I said, continue this investigation and our investigation into Greg James Jackson Onision. We'll continue with our Onision investigation, and as I mentioned, Davi Vanity and many more in the works.
Does this man ever give up? Over the past 35 minutes or so, I've exposed the true motives of Chris Hansen. Money. This man will do literally anything for money. A cameo to promote a phone created by the chief of assassinations in the Escobar International Cocaine Trafficking Crime Syndicate? Check. A congratulatory message to a person being accepted into the Epstein pilot program, which bears the name of one of the most prolific predators in history? Check. Promoting a coronavirus killer that has almost no scientific research to back it up? Check. Starring in an infomercial created by one of the most well-known scam artists on the internet? Check. Using his name and image to promote a debt relief secret scam? Check. Taking $10,000 from a dark money political group to smear a person of Jewish faith as an anti-Semite? Check. Make no mistake, Chris Hansen's investigations are nothing more than a cash grab, which, as we'll learn about next time, is just a stepping stone to getting back into mainstream television. So now, I think it's time for Chris Hansen to take a seat right over there.